Hi everyone, and welcome to Paper Pumpkin Week here on Creative Chelsey. Today I'm sharing with you my third set of alternative cards using the December 2023 Paper Pumpkin kit called All the Best. This beautiful kit creates a total of 9 greeting cards, 3 in these 3 different designs. Plus it includes 1 acetate gift box that you can use to add the cards and envelopes to if you're interested in giving it as a gift. If you would like to watch me unbox the kit and create these cards, you can click on the playlist up here in the top right corner. And that playlist will also show you my other alternative cards. The cards I'm sharing today use blending brushes to add a pop of color over the gold accents. You can make these light or dark, depending on what you like. I'm excited to show you how I did this. If you are new to Paper Pumpkin and are interested in getting your own monthly crafting kit, you can subscribe using the link in the description below. I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and help you with any questions you may have about Paper Pumpkin or Stampin' Up! Products. You can contact me through my email address listed at the bottom of the description in every video. Let's begin these cards, like we always do, by cutting up the pieces from the kit. So there's no full card base that we're using. We're using the gold accent piece here, and then we're going to use the front or back of this sky piece. And if you remember, we still have that score line right there. So let's go ahead and just cut that off. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4. So let's begin with this piece. We're going to cut it into 2 sections. One section is 2 inches and one section is 4 1/4 inches. The 2-inch section we are going to use on this card here. So let's just go ahead and put that one off to the side. This larger section, so this is 2 1/4 inches, we're going to cut this in half at 1 1/8 inch. And that should be the same on both sides. These pieces are going to be on each side of our centerpiece on this card. For this piece, let's go ahead and trim it. We're going to trim it right down in between these 2 flowers here. And you can just eyeball this, and I will give you just kind of an estimate on how much it will be on each side. So it's about, I'm cutting it at about 2 1/8 inches with the 2 flowers on the left. So this is larger. It's going to be 2 1/8 inches, and then this is going to be the smaller piece. So it's going to look something like this. There's, again, not an exact amount here. This piece is about 1 3/4, and this, again, is about 2 1/8. So let's go ahead and cut the larger piece. So it has this extra section down here at the bottom, and we're going to remove that, and we're going to cut it at 4 1/2. Okay. So this larger piece is for kind of our banner card. And then this smaller piece goes on this other card. And then there's one more thing we're going to cut, and it's this rectangle tag. And we're just going to cut it right in the middle because we're going to elongate it. So let's see, it is about 2 1/2 inches. And so let's go ahead and try to cut it around 1 1/4 inches. So it might be a little bit bigger than 1 1/4, and it doesn't need to be exact because we're going to separate it and put it on both sides. Let's go ahead and do these separately today because they use some different techniques. So I have a card base of Balmy Blue cardstock. You could use a basic white or any other color. I like the Balmy Blue because it kind of blends in with this background color, which is what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to add our 2 pieces to the left and right of my card base. Just line it up. There will be no cardstock showing, so just make sure it goes all the way to the edges. I do like the darker color on top. So if you're kind of trying to decide, that's, I did look at it and thought about it, and I prefer the dark on top, but you could flip it around if you wanted the white on top. So you're going to get something that looks like this. And then I do want to just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like if you don't add the blending. So if you don't add the blending, you're going to get a nice crisp white. The blending does add a little bit of color. So if you'd like to have more color instead of a monochromatic look, then you can do the blending. Okay. So make that choice. And then you need to decide what colors you're going to blend on it. I wanted to just stick with the same colors that are in the kit. So I'm going to use crushed curry and old olive. So I'm just going to do the yellow and green for this one. I do have a small blending brush, and I'm going to just blend using my glass mat here. So I'm going to kind of blend off a little color first, and then I'm going to go ahead and blend the yellow just over the image. On my next one, I'm going to blend the whole thing, but for this one, I'm just going to do kind of the main images. So get a little more ink, blend a little bit of that off, and then just a couple little blends over these cute little seed pods that are floating away. If you want to go a little darker right in the center of your flower, you can do that too. Okay, so there's the yellow. If you want to do the whole thing, you can. Then I've got my green blending brush, and the same thing, kind of blend off to make sure you don't have any strong color, and then you're just going to put that right by your leaves. Let's go a little bit more. Always start your blends with a light touch so that you don't get any really strong colors popping. Okay, so you'll get something that looks like this. It's a fun technique if you're interested in adding a little more color to your card. So the wonderful thing about this glass mat is that I can just kind of wipe it up, and it does include kind of a little chamois, and all you have to do is get your chamois wet, and then it just kind of cleans it right up. So once you've got that done, you do want to take like a tissue or something and just pick up any color that might be sitting on top of the gold foiling. Sometimes the ink will sit there. You just want to pick it up so that it doesn't smear onto your card. You can see there was a little bit left. I'm going to go ahead and take my rectangle pieces and add a little tear and tape to the cut edge. We're going to tuck this behind the center here. So you're going to flip it over. I'm just going to flip it from the front to the back because I want to keep the left and the right on the correct sides. So maybe about a 1/2 inch or so from the base, I'm going to add my left side about 1/4 inch. So about 1/4 inch gap from that bottom corner and the top corner. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here on the right, but I want a little more space. So maybe I'll go with a 1/2 inch. So use your grid paper or whatever you're using. And I had a 1/2 inch and then a 1/2 inch. So something like that. Just want to make sure that it looks like one piece from the back. Okay. And then we're going to add this to the center of our card with some dimensionals. You do want to support the label, so make sure to add some there as well. Maybe I'll add one more right here in the middle. There will be a little border around the center of blue. Okay, so it's going to look like that. Do you see how there's a little border? That's intentional. So we do need to stamp, and let's just do that in a minute. We'll do all of our stamping at one time. So let's now run over to card number 2. So this one, again, we're using some blending, and I'm kind of added a little bit of blue near the bottom. You don't have to do that if you don't want. You can keep it yellow, green, you can do any other colors that you have. And I did go a little darker on these colors. So let's actually start in the middle with our old olive. If you blend off first, then you get a smoother blend. Blend it into the top and bottom thirds just a little bit. Let's go to the yellow next. Kind of want to blend away from where I was blending before, so I don't get green in my yellow. Make sure to blend that color into the green as well. You don't want to leave it harsh. You want to have it be nice and blended in the middle between the colors. And then let's go ahead and do a little bit of blue as well. This is a really strong blue. This is Balmy Blue. Just going to kind of start at the bottom. It's a little darker than the yellow and green, so I'm not as worried about it picking up those colors. There we go. And then just really get a nice blend into that green. There we go. It's a really pretty look, especially on top of that gold foil, or I guess behind it. And then if you have that tissue still on close by, you can go ahead and remove any excess off the gold. So next, let's go ahead and move to the stamping. I'm going to stamp on some of that leftover envelope for this wishing you all the best. I want it to be a vertical greeting instead of horizontal. So I'm just going to ink it up and stamp it in the Pebbled Path color that came in the kit. And I will be fussy cutting that out. Okay, so that's what that looks like. So for our second card, I'm going to stamp the greeting on some vellum, and I'm going to heat emboss it. So to do this, I want to start with my embossing buddy and add a little bit of that powder. This is going to help me create a nice crisp image. I use Versamark ink, and then I'm going to stamp this right in the center of just a scrap piece of vellum. You do want to work with a little larger piece. Then you're going to take some gold embossing powder and apply this to the top of your stamp. Kind of tap it so that it kind of goes all around, and then you can remove the excess. And then you heat it up with the heat tool, and it gets all shiny. I just love the way that looks. And it works really well with our cards because of the gold embellishments. So from here, let's go ahead and cut. And if you don't have vellum or the heat embossing products, you can just do the same thing on some white paper and just stamp it in the Pebbled Path. So using vellum is really easy to make sure everything's lined up. I'm going to just kind of put my wishing you, the bottom of that, on the 1/2 inch mark, and then trim the top. And once I have that line, everything else should line up pretty well with the text. So I'm going to just trim off the excess on the sides and the bottom. I kind of want it to be about, let's go about 2 1/4 inches. I like that size. I want the bottom to have a little bit of space for a banner. So it might be a little shorter than my first one, but that's okay. So there you can see how the greeting is now perfectly centered inside my shape. So right here, I'm going to add a little banner. And the best way to do this, I think, is to find the center. And then you're just going to cut up a little bit on that banner. And this definitely is smaller than the original. That's okay. Oh, needs to be trimmed a little bit better. There. So then you're going to get this fun banner shape. And I'm going to do that on all my pieces. The next thing I need to do is just fussy cut this out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. Okay, so going back to that first card, now that I have fussy cut out all of the greeting, I'm going to go ahead and add them to this section here on the right side. So I'm going to start with the word best, because that's on the bottom, and then I'll just work my way up to the top. And I do want to kind of cover this seam right here. So then we'll do all the and they don't need to stack on top of each other. They can kind of move to the left or the right. And then we have wishing and you. Just like that. So wishing you all the best. And then the last thing we're going to add to this card is the gems. And your card is all done. Super fun card. I love that fun blending technique, especially when the sun hits that foil. It just really pops. Let's go now to the second card, and we're going to grab a couple more things that we need. So we do need our card base, and this is again the same Balmy Blue card base that we used on the first card. And I do want to use another strip here. So I'm going to take a pair of paper snips and cut off a strip. You can use this other side as well. You just, of course, trim it, the white part off. Let's go ahead and do that. And I want to add it to the top of my sky, just as a little accent piece. And to do that, I want to take a little bit of liquid glue and put it on some scrap paper. And then just right in the center, just kind of add it to the center of that piece there. And then I can place that on the top here. And just make sure it's flush with the top edge. And then you can trim off the excess on each side. So I'm going to add this piece first. just a little liquid glue at the top. It doesn't need to be all over. And I think I'm going to place this at about 1 inch from the left side. And I do want to make sure it's straight all the way down my card. Now I can add my flower, and I am adding that with some dimensionals, and I'm kind of at the end of my dimensionals. So just whatever little pieces I have left over, just going to pop those on. And this I'm going to place about 1/4 inch or so from the right and about 1/2 inch or so from the top. It's almost so that this corner is touching the center of that banner behind it. Let's talk a little bit about the greeting. Whenever we add adhesive behind vellum, we'll see it. So I have 2 little tips for you. So I'm going to use the little gold flower to hide some dimensionals, but we first need to add it to the vellum. And so I'm just going to kind of see where I can place it. And so I'm going to add a glue dot to the leaf and then to the right side of the flower. So whatever glue dots you have, I've used up all the glue dots that came in the kit. So I have some left over from some past paper pumpkin kits. So I'm just going to use that. And then you'll just pop this flower onto the banner. So you're going to want to make sure it goes on the left side because it's going to support the banner by placing a dimensional behind the flower. You can see here how it fits nicely there, and that's going to support it on that side. The other thing we're going to do is place some glue dots inside some holes. So let me show you that. So you're going to take a glue dot. Any size really will work, but I do like the paper pumpkin ones or ones that come in the kit because they're a little more flat. And you're going to roll it around your take a pick tool, so it's about half the size or a little bit smaller, and then you're just going to pop it into some areas where it's going to be hidden. So some of those areas are like this O on U. You can't see it very well, but it's there, and so it's kind of hidden. I'm also going to hide it behind the E and then the T in best. And those are going to get stuck to the blended paper that we just added. And that will also support and keep the vellum paper in place. Okay, so there is kind of those 3 little glue dots that I've added. And then I'm just going to place this. And I want to place it so that it's a little bit off so that the flower is closer to the edge. And maybe about there. Now it looks like that E or that T right there is actually not on. So I do need to lift it up because I want it to be, I can probably remove the glue dot too if I'm careful. There. So I'm just going to have it on the E and the O, and that just really depends on the placement on everything. So maybe this one, I had it a little closer together, and that's okay. So it's going to look like that. And then we'll add some more embellishments. Just like that. And that card is all done. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create these fun cards today and use the fun blending technique to add color to the gold foil elements. If you're interested in getting written instructions or seeing close-up images on how I created this card, you can visit my blog, creativechelsey.com. If you would like to get your own paper pumpkin subscription, please use the link below to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.